right, we're gonna get started. So welcome everyone. I don't see myself, so I'm thinking you probably can't see me, but that's fine because actually we are going to look at a presentation. And I don't think I can show you the presentation as well as, let me just check, guys.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Oh, you're in the corner.
Okay, you can see me. Okay, I can't see myself, which is fine, but I just, wanted to know. I'm gonna stop the music, but just take note of that music that we heard in the background. It's a little distracting, so that's why I'm gonna turn it off for now. But we'll get back to that. And anytime you want to interrupt, that's fine. I don't take offense to that. So, but let me just introduce myself. My name is Rachele DeMeo, and I was actually born and raised in Nîmes in the south of France, but I was raised bilingual. And I moved to the U.S. when I was 19 and just for college and just started teaching pretty much right after I graduated. I've been teaching for a while, and I teach French here and also here at Miracosta, but I also teach at Palomar. So anyway, I want to share this presentation with you guys because I've done a lot of research, and I would say for about a year more intensively on what is the best way we can learn and how the best way that our students can learn. And so if you followed some of my workshops in the past, then you might have come to workshops where I've talked about learning styles or classroom management or some of those. And I'm just grateful for all the ideas you've given me, because you guys have given me so many good ideas with teaching. And it's actually some of the things that you give me that inspire me to want to inspire my own students. So I'm always looking forward to everything that you share with me as well, because I learned so much from all of you. So just wanted to say that. And so here, just the way it kind of started for me is actually my son. I do half homeschool, half regular school. It's like a hybrid school. So half the week my children go to school, half the week they are at home with me. And because I teach them French, that was an important component for my children. But my older son was having a lot of difficulties concentrating. And so that I thought, well, maybe he's ADD, maybe there's some issues here, but I want to see what would be some of the best ways he may learn. And so after doing some research and talking to some other instructors as well who had done research on this very topic, I realized that there are certain colors and scents and sounds that actually help us learn and motivate us. So I wanted to share that, and I can't see the chat, because I think if I activate the chat, then I can't see the presentation as well. But I just wanted to kind of talk about this, and like I said, feel free to ask questions. So one question for you guys is, what contributes to a bad learning environment? What do you think may contribute to a bad learning environment? So you can tell me what you think. You can also, I created a Padlet. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I'll show you on another tab. But I created a Padlet where you can share throughout the presentation what you believe. First of all, we're going to talk about what would be a positive learning environment. So if you just go to Padlet, hopefully you can see it at the top, but I'll put it also in the chat. If you go to padlet.com/profdemeo/learn ENV, ENV is for environment, then you can share what you believe would be a good learning environment. So I'll put the, I'll put it right at the bottom here. Let's see, hold on. I'll put the link at the bottom as well. There we go. But if you guys, yeah, that's great. I'm hearing you guys type. That's great. Let me, oops. Trying to get back to the chat so I can, oops, maybe it's over here. Let's see. I don't know where it went, but I was trying, I don't know if you can see at the bottom, but I have it at the bottom screen where it says, so what you think may actually contribute to a bad learning environment. So let's see, anxiety and stress. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Anxiety and stress can definitely contribute to a bad learning environment. When you're anxious, you have stress. Go ahead, I'm hearing somebody say something. Let's see, a new message. Oh yes, thank you for putting the link. I appreciate that. So, and you guys can also type in the chat if that is easier. But I definitely appreciate that. But what are some things that you think when you've had students that have just said, oh, I'm bad at learning, or they say, I can't learn. What are some things that you think? So a negative attitude. Oh yes, that's so true. When people have a negative attitude and already that mentality of I can't, then that doesn't help at all, for sure. Relationships and humor can definitely contribute with positive, for sure. But right now we're just kind of focusing on the negative. I love when people are eager. But instruction overload, that's so true. Like, haven't we all had an instructor at some point that just is like drilling us with a mountain of information and homework that just seems daunting? So yeah, negative attitude from the professor, that's so true.
Oh.
Like if they'd had a bad day, go ahead. Did somebody want to interrupt me? That's fine. You guys are shy. Distractions, yes, that's so true. Yep, distractions definitely can, unfortunately, contribute to that negative environment. And so if they're distracted, then even if they're sitting in front of the classroom or whatnot, then that can contribute to that. Being confused. Confusion is the worst. I mean, how can anybody learn if they're confused? Like, you don't even want to learn if you're confused about what you're even supposed to do, for instance. So, or yes, or I don't know how you pronounce that in English, but authoritarian instruction. Yeah, I agree with that. The Nazi approach of like, that's maybe not a good way of putting it, but past experiences, that's so true. Smart, Alex. Yes, that's true. Other people that maybe, yes, all those I think are very valid, and you can continue sharing and participating in this. I think this is really useful, and actually it's helping me a lot too, because I'm like, yeah, that's true. I could see from this student or not that would have affected how he or she learned. So that I agree with all those. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about that, and then if you've already jumped in a little bit, and some of you have, then you can talk and tell me what you think contributes to a good learning environment. So some of you already started writing some things down, but it's that on that same Padlet, so just padlet.com/prof.demeo/learning environment. And just as a side note, as you guys are writing what you think may contribute to a positive learning environment, I really like Padlet. A lot of you that have taken workshops I've taught before, you may have noticed that I love anything that, any new tools and tech stuff, even if apparently I'm not really good with Zoom. But Padlet is really good for online classes. You can actually embed it into Canvas, and your students can like introduce themselves, and they can add things, and you can limit, you can even put a password if you want. You can make it anonymous or not. Let's see, I think Lyle was saying something. Oh, Joanne, yay, hi. Yeah, professors who are accessible, that's so true. That definitely contributes to a great learning environment, is professors who are accessible. Prepared teacher, that is so true. Being prepared, that definitely helps a lot. Relationships, it's true how relationships, even like externally outside of teaching or learning or taking a class as a student, that does contribute to our environment of learning. Humor, I think humor really does. Sometimes there's something about humor that helps us relieve that stress we were talking about earlier and that anxiety. And so the humor actually helps diffuse some of that. Or sometimes if there's tension, maybe between two students or a topic that may be a little bit difficult to discuss, the humor can sometimes help. Meaningful activities, I couldn't agree more with that. Talking about current events as an icebreaker, I love that. That's a great suggestion that I'm gonna start applying. So I really like that. Providing help while doing activities, yes, that's so true. I was at a workshop a couple of days ago, and a professor was telling me how what he does is that he always kind of spots the students that are really good at computer stuff, because that's what he teaches, is computer science, and he immediately puts them kind of in charge of being tutors. And I just think that's amazing. Yes, the motivation and enthusiasm of instructors definitely help create that positive learning environment. Students can need structure. I mean, just going back maybe to my own home, but my older son, without structure, if I don't tell him what's going on, like I've told him this morning what we're going on for the next 3 days, because if he doesn't have that structure, he just acts differently. And students are the same. Some of them do need that structure. being willing to be wrong and admit it. That's so, so true. Yes, especially as an instructor, I think that when we're creating that learning environment, we don't want to come across as we're perfect or we know everything or any of that. But being, even like catching on to our own flaws, like something I do in classes, I tell my students, I say, sometimes we'll do verb conjugations or whatever. And I'll tell them, I'll say, sometimes there's going to be mistakes in there. And most of the time I did on purpose to make sure you're paying attention. But you never know, because if I missed one, then it's a good thing if you can catch it. So personal motivation, yes, that's true. External motivation, have an interest, that's true. That really helps. If a student's already interested in it, that definitely helps. Enthusiastic professors, agreed. Yes, yes, the comfortable physical environment, that's so true. A study was done with the chairs that we sit in, and I guess if we sit on hard chairs, then we're more prone to not want to be there for long. So a lot of restaurants that kind of want people to leave quickly and kind of more fast food environment, they'll have these hard seats so that you don't stay there forever. But if you have like a nice cushiony seat, you're going to be there for longer. So that can definitely be a part of it. Reinforcing common experiences, so true. Relating to our students. Approachability, are we being personable with our students? All those contribute to a positive learning environment. And keeping input in the target language comprehensible. Yes, I agree, definitely, that's so true. Remind students that if she has a question, about 25% of the class has the same or similar question. Suddenly people ask questions, that's true. Yeah, I forget that sometimes, and so I really appreciate that. That's really good. Let's see, prepare teacher, yeah, instrumental music, yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Positive community tone during first class, humility. Oh, that's so true. I couldn't agree more with all that. I think physical discomfort or comfort in the environment can impact learning, definitely. And yeah, I need stricter as well too, Robert. So I'm there with you. So anyway, great. That's really good. And you know, I'll keep this open so you guys can continue adding things that you see. For instance, negative learning environments. Somebody just added grammar-driven activities. That can be very daunting for our students. And again, that is uncomfortable physical environment. Whereas making students serious effort early on to learn students' names, that's important. And it's tough when sometimes we teach many classes and we have 120 students. It's tough. One thing that's helped me. Let me see if I have a little index card. I'll show you what I do. But for names, just as kind of like a side note, but I use this little index card, and I'll have students write their name and their learning style, and then they have to put it on their desk like so. And so I just kind of try to memorize it, and that's helped me. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much time on that, and you guys can still contribute because this is something you guys can look back on, and it's all about sharing ideas. So last semester, 2 semesters ago, I started kind of testing it out, and then last semester, I really tested it out more. Granted, a lot of students didn't even know I was trying to create different color choices and so forth. But I had students, and as you can see, there's a low number that actually participated. Of course, there was an extra credit. I should have thought of giving extra credit, but I didn't. So with color choice, 66.7% agreed that helped them productively accomplish different activities in class. So why that number may not seem like that great, it's my first semester really trying it out and really being more focused on it. So, and like I said, some of them didn't really realize that until after. So, oh, sorry. Okay, there's a little background noise. So I don't know if you guys don't mind muting yourself. Sorry, I'm not trying to go over anybody who wants to share, but I apologize, but I guess if you guys don't mind just muting yourself for now, and then we'll have a time to chat all together after. So anyways, those are what students are saying about the choice of the color. And so again, like just doing some research, yellow is the color that is the best for learning, for memorization, and for studying. So learning, whatever reason, yellow gives obviously it's more of an energizing type of color, but in terms of memorization and studying, it really can be effective. And so if you notice, like I recently wrote a textbook of like 900 pages, and I requested for the books to be a light yellow just for that reason, because it helps when it's memorizing. And I'm going to give you some ways also to use this in class, because I know that maybe the first thing you're thinking is, well, I can't paint my classroom yellow, and I agree. I mean, we don't always have that choice, but it's just good to be aware of that, and I'll give you some examples of how you can implement that in your classroom. Another color that's really good is green. So green is really good for any kind of test preparation, anything that may cause the anxiety you were referring to earlier that can be kind of a negative classroom experience for them. The green is soothing. And so during exams, during reviewing, during things that may cause that anxiety, the green is actually a very soothing and relaxing color. And then another color that is really good is blue. So blue is really good for productivity, work, and projects. And so those three colors are technically, I mean, there are other colors like purple that are also soothing, and there are other colors that can help. But, you know, this is just an introduction to obviously a topic that can be very complex. And so for our classrooms for learning, whether you are teaching students that are in college or middle school, high school, or younger students, or even homeschooling, or even if you have an office where your children may be doing some kind of homework or whatnot, those are the things to keep in mind. And for me personally, it kind of worked out well because we are in the kitchen. That's where we do our homeschool half the time, since we do the co-op hybrid. So half the time my children go to school, half the time they're at home with me. And I didn't even know this. And a year ago, I repainted my kitchen yellow and green. And I was just like, oh, thank God that after I researched it, it actually works well. But those are colors that are the yellow, green, and blue. So examples of this. So yellow is more that color for learning. So you're trying to teach them something, then maybe it's using yellow chalk. Maybe it's printing something like a handout where they actually have something they need to learn. Maybe that would be, you'd be printing that out in yellow. With green, with the same thing. I mean, the green and the yellow are a good combination together because it also is soothing. But for instance, you are preparing and you're giving them a review for a test. Well, it could apply as well to have it printed on a light colored green paper. And then finally, for any kind of projects that are, they need to be productive. So they need to do something. Perhaps it's they're doing a research project, or they're working in groups, or if they're doing like a lotto or that kind of activity, then the blue being printed on blue would be ideal. Obviously, like if I had it my way, then these are the colors that we would paint the inside of our classrooms. And, you know, for instance, an area for a lab where they have to take tests would probably be in green. Most classrooms have yellow, and then have decoration, because that does definitely help. I mean, it seems weird, but it really can be effective. So the how-to guide. So I mentioned a little bit, if there's a possibility to paint the walls those colors, that's great. If not, there's other things that you can do, such as add decorations. And even if sometimes we're in a classroom for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then we have 10 minutes to get out of there, maybe we have, you know, a few decorations that we can bring that may just, I don't know, something that may soothe students that are in those colors, and that we can just put in the front of the classroom, something that they can see, but that would help them. And then also, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, printing handouts in those colors can really be effective. Like I'll give you an example of something that I've done, which was more the productive. So we talked about blue being the productive. So students had all these words jumbled up, and they could create a variety of sentences. There was not really, obviously there was some wrong answers, but there wasn't like, it has to be this sentence. They had the liberty of being able to create a sentence based on all these words that were jumbled up. They just couldn't have the same sentence twice. So students worked on that. And what I did is I actually had that activity printed on a light blue paper. So as they worked in groups of 3 to 4 and had to cut out, I gave them scissors and everything, they had to cut out all the piece of paper and put them together, and be very mindful of the word order, since the word order in other languages is different than, for instance, in English, and in French, not especially, but in a certain way, yes. So they had to put those together. And so I did that in blue because, again, that's the color for being productive. Something I've done also for reviews, and I taught a workshop on this at one point, and you guys gave me some great ideas with some of the things you do in terms of this activity, but it's on the station rotation. So that station rotation where you have, I don't know, 6 handouts, and they have 3 minutes each. They're in groups, again, maybe 3 or 4. They have to work together on that one handout, whether it's conversing, talking about something, or solving a problem. And then 3 minutes goes by, and then they hear that little ding, and then it goes on to the next handout. And so that's just like a rotation. And so if I was going to do something like that, then I do that for reviews for tests. And so then I may print it in green, or it could be the writing in green. It could also be if they're using little whiteboards. Some of you have indicated that you have your students use whiteboards and they show their letters or whatnot. I remember talking to a Japanese teacher about that. I thought that was great to see, okay, are the lines in the right order or not? Are they too much this way? And they just can show their whiteboards and see that. So again, students who may need to be productive, then they can have blue, whereas maybe they would have yellow if they're trying to learn the letters. And sometimes, you know, it's more about what it does to their brain. So does anybody have questions just regarding colors? We have other things we're going to talk about, but I just want to know if anybody has questions pertaining to colors themselves, and you can put it down in the chat. Ooh, somebody already does. Let's see. So Lee is saying, just an aside, if using colored text or backgrounds, be sure to still make sure that the color contrast is good for readability, because people with poor vision or certain color blindness can really struggle. That's very true, and I couldn't agree more. I've done PowerPoint presentations and slightly been reprimanded because it was too crowded and it was hard to kind of see. So that's true, especially in electronic formats. So if you are writing with a light yellow or light blue, then having that dark color to contrast it. Oh yeah, so writing, so that's a good question. So do you prefer any color when writing on the whiteboard in the classroom? So I personally, because I am high on visuals and I'm high on providing students with visuals depending on their learning style, I try to use a variety of colors. I've been, since last semester, more mindful, because with yellow on whiteboard, that like Lee was saying, that wouldn't work because the white and the yellow are just too similar. But I would probably use a green or blue, and I use a lot of green or blue, and then I put red, things that are more important. But with red, it's a little tricky because it's a color that can actually make you feel like you're hungry. So not that I say I don't avoid red. Red is actually my favorite color, but I would say I try to use a lot of green and a lot of blue, and I do use some black, and especially if it's just trying to separate, to keep that structure that we were talking about earlier, and a good structure in class. Sometimes having certain things in certain colors can help. So I hope that answers your question. So we'll continue on, and of course I'm always open. You can always tell me what you may have questions you have or ideas you have. I think that's great, and you can continue also posting as well on the Padlet. So yes, and so then another idea from Laura, maybe fabric tablecloths if you have tables in your room. I love that idea. They're small to pack and carry, fast upon table, can be in the colors you want, can be reused over and over, inexpensive. Sorry if I'm jumping in. No, I love that. Thank you. I'm going to start doing that. That's an amazing idea. I really like that, because with our classrooms, that's great. That's really good. I'm going to start using that. Thanks for sharing that, because I didn't even think of that. That's a really good idea. I mean, if you have enough, like 40 with like material, you could have easily those 3 colors. And then if it's just learning, I like that. That's a really good idea. Oops. Oh, sorry. Whoa, I don't know what I did. Hopefully you guys can see the screen. I don't know what I touched. Is everybody here? Let me just make sure. Yeah, you can put on the teacher's table up front at least. That's a great idea. I hope everybody can see. I clicked on something accidentally, and I hope that you guys can still see the screen. But let's continue on. Again, you can continue participating as well in the discussion that we have. So, okay, cool. Great, thanks, because I wasn't sure. I clicked on something. Here you go. So you can continue adding some things here as you want. That's definitely for everybody to contribute in. And so let's kind of move on from colors then, if that's okay with everyone. And yes, Laura, I think I'm gonna do the same thing. That's a great idea. I think I'm gonna buy some material and do that. And I'm not a seamstress, so they're just gonna have to deal with it being kind of cut a little weird, but anyway, so let's move on a little bit, and we're talking now about scents and what the choice of the scents would be. So again, using what my students said, and I know that it's not like an extremely high number because a lot of them didn't even know I was using different scents in the classroom, probably the ones who were in the back and never tried to come to the front, even though I would rotate them. But it's still 66.7% said that the aromatherapy that was diffused in the classroom was either pleasant and contributed to a positive learning environment. So that's just students that kind of gave me some of that feedback. So what scent should we use? So the best one that helps with learning is actually rosemary. So I think that's super interesting. So if you have a rosemary bush, you might actually just, since rosemary grows like crazy, you might just want to cut some of it and have it with you as well. I've actually in the past cut some off and then given it to my students and told them, of course, if they're not allergic, because you always have to claim the allergy thing, but to rub it on their hands, and they can rub it on their hands and then smell it, and that can help with the learning environment. What I do in class, and I started implementing this, is I actually have a little portable diffuser that I hope you can see, but it's just a small diffuser. I think you can buy on Amazon. It's really cheap. This one's just a spa room, and you just open it up from back, let's see, and then you can put like some essential oils. So I'll have my list of oils that I have, and then just kind of like put a little on there and then put it back. And I wish you could smell it. I wish you had a way that you guys could smell it, because I'm all about smells as it is, but you guys would really like it, I think. It smells really good. So I didn't put any, but it's whatever's left over in there. And so I just bring this one to class, and then I have several essential oils that I put depending on what we're doing. And you can change out the pads, whatnot. And then sometimes because it's small, I do kind of have to move it around. So that's one thing that I've done. I'll show you another example of one, as well as, oops, sorry about that. This is another one I also found that's even better. I think I found it on Amazon. It was very inexpensive, and like I would say under $10. But same thing, it's just a small portable essential oil diffuser. And so in the classroom, I don't know about you guys, but I always feel like it just reeks in the classroom. It doesn't smell good for whatever reason. It's kind of like stuffy. So it's nice. You can kind of open up the windows or door temporarily and then spray this. It's just nice. Or another thing that you can do, and I do this less because it's so temporary. This is actually more ongoing throughout the classroom. If you have a diffuser, you can smell it more in a more ongoing way. But you can also have like a little room spray. They're so easy to make. You literally just put a few drops of essential oils and filtered water, or it doesn't even have to be filtered, and maybe a tiny bit of alcohol to kind of neutralize any kind of bad odor. But you can just bring in the classroom and spray it, and it smells like super good. That's a really good one. But rosemary apparently is the color that facilitates the most with learning. So you might want to consider rosemary. I do, well, at least last semester when I tried it out, and then halfway through the previous semester, I told students, hey, I'm testing this out. Please let me know if you have allergies. But I mean, nobody did, at least not so far. Another one that's really good is vanilla. So vanilla is really soothing. So during an exam, during something that was maybe stressful, like if it was a stressful conversation, let's say that like a discussion in class, and it just, the people got a little tense or whatnot, then that could be a good essential oil. And I'm just reading through the comments as well. Oh yeah, the rosemary. Yep, that's great. And I like thieves as well. I agree with that, Dawn. And rosemary, I think that can be really effective. And even when it's dry, it smells really good. So I think that's really good. That's really good suggestion. But the vanilla is a soothing. So again, for tests, so think of rosemary. Rosemary is going to be for learning. You're teaching. Whether it's a PowerPoint or whether it's an activity-based where they're teaching themselves, the rosemary would be really effective for the learning. The vanilla's going to be more soothing. So during an exam, during a review, something like that, that could be useful as well. Peppermint's another good one because it's more energizing. So a evening or night class, then that just kind of wakes you up a little bit. Also when maybe it's a chapter that you really do have to cover, but it seems boring to the students and, they have to kind of be awake for it. That's a good one. Or I try to avoid lectures. I know it sounds really funny because I'm doing a lecture, but I avoid PowerPoints as much as I can, and I've tried to avoid all that in my classroom, but sometimes, it's just have them, and so the peppermint can be really helpful with that. Another one you might have even guessed, I was talking to a few people that guessed this one, but is citrus. So citrus, same thing, it's awakening, and it's also refreshing. So summer day, early in the morning, you have a class, that's a good one to start out with. And you can have, I mean, you have little pads that you can change out, or I mean, it's small, so it's not like you have to bring a bunch of stuff with you. And even the room sprays, you can have a few of them with you, and that's very easy to use as well.
Something was going on.
Another one that sorry, Lyle, I think you're trying to say something.
Okay.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So anyway, another one that's really good is sage. Sage awakes is really like awakening, and so that's another oil, essential oil you might want to have as well. So that's something that you can have as well with you. And so another one, you probably guessed this one, is eucalyptus. That's really good for relaxing. It often goes with lavender. You can put it with lavender, or you can put it by itself, but eucalyptus is a really relaxing scent. So during an exam, something that could be stressful, then that just can be really helpful to have. And then another one that sometimes is overlooked is basil. And so it's the same thing. Like if you've ever taken basil, I love the smell of basil, but you just put it in your hand and you smell it, it really helps. So the ones I go to, the ones that I've used the most are like, I mean, granted I have like an entire box like this big of all my essential oils because I use a bunch. And some of them, like, they're not that pricey. Like I got the Now brand, I think, on Amazon, and it wasn't too expensive. I think I had that one for like the eucalyptus, but I definitely use the rosemary the most. The rosemary isn't the scent that's like the most, like, oh, I love the smell, but it's definitely a scent that you'll see that students, the ones in the front really obviously smell it more. I try to rotate people around, but I also try to bring my little diffuser so that I can try to rotate it if there's like any side tables that I can use it. But the rosemary is definitely the one I prefer the most. I've used the rosemary and the vanilla and the eucalyptus the most. Those are the three that I've used the most because it just kind of, it seemed like when I looked at students that would be like, and then continue working, and they had a pleasant look on their face, I was like, okay, that's probably a good sign. So that's probably one I want to continue using. But there are others as well that you can kind of research that could be good. So with the how-to guide, we mentioned this a little bit before, but just diffusing essential oils is easy. That's so easy to do. I mean, you're going to spend, let's say, maybe 20 bucks, 25 maximum if you're getting the diffuser. And I'm not selling anything, so people are like, what is she selling? Does she work for a company? No, I don't. But you have the essential oils. You can just get on it wherever you want. Thieves is great. I have friends also that actually sell some, but and even on Amazon, you can find different ones. But it's a cheap purchase that is really worth it. And even if you're doing office hours, that can also be good, because sometimes when students come during office hours, they're all stressed out and somehow they feel intimidated to talk with you, even if you're like the most relaxing person and you're not trying to intimidate. So having that to kind of walk in the class or in your office and it smells good can be nice as well. So plants, having plants if you can. I mean, I think that was a great suggestion of just cutting off branches as well, maybe putting them in a vase. Could be really good. I mean, that could be great. If you're able to bring any kind of outside plants, then that can be great. And even on students' desks or whatnot, I think that could be productive. So something to think about. And so, yes. Yeah, the nature is, yeah, I think nature really has everything we need, really. But yes, and the doTERRA is a good brand too. That's right. Yep, it helps me sleep as well. I have lavender around my bed when I have a hard time sleeping. So I think that's a really good suggestion, Robert. And then also rubbing any kind of leaves, flowers on your hands can be good. If you have some at home and you just cut a branch of like the rosemary, just tell students, because they can smell it whenever they want to. They can keep the branch by their desk. And then also if they actually, I mean, it can be a little tricky because some people may have a reaction. It's kind of not common, but it's good to be aware. It's just putting a few drops of essential oil on like your upper lip area or on your forehead. That can actually help even with headaches or whatnot. So like if I have like a Lyme, let's say, then I might do that. It's like, it's energizing as a citrus. So that could be something that you might want to consider for your classroom, is either just encouraging them to buy essential oils and do that, or bring in some yourself and just, you know, give them that. So, oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Joanne. That's a good suggestion as well with the citrus vanilla blend. That's great. And so, no, Laura, so the question was, have students ever complained about scents? I know that some people are sensitive, and that's a great question. And I did ask students. I had, last semester I had a fairly large class at Palomar and a smaller class at Miracosta. And at Palomar, some of them smelt it less. There's only one student that asked me once, and she was an older lady, and she was already having a hard time because she was learning a second, or her first language wasn't even English, and then she was learning French, so that was a little bit challenging. But she did say, oh, why are those the scents? They seem strong, but granted she was kind of close to them. So that's when I thought, wait a minute, I really need to rotate them. But I've only ever heard, like, apart from her saying that, all my other students just said, oh, I love that it smells good in the class. Oh, I really like it. There's something about this. And so, yeah, and Robert, that's a great suggestion. You can rub it at the bottom of your feet. That's right. I do that with my kids when I'm trying to help them sleep. And I'll put like lavender and eucalyptus, and that helps them sleep. I diffuse it with like an oil, like an almond oil, for instance. And Sheridad said lemongrass is really good too. That's great. Those are all really good. I think it's just like finding, like, the ones that I found that work is what I bring to my classroom, because I don't want to we already carry enough. Like, I'm associate faculty, and it's like I already carry enough stuff with me every class. So I try to limit like what I can to a few, but I think it's whatever you can find. Does anybody want to chime in or add to anything in terms of scents and what we smell in the classroom? I'll give you a second maybe to think about it, or if you want to, continue writing things as well, you can. But just, food for thought, something that you might want to implement in your classroom. If you feel like it wasn't effective, it didn't work, then just don't do it. Don't just stop after. Ask your students, because I feel like students are always the best gauge to know how we're doing as an instructor, how we're doing with some of these crazy things we sometimes want to try out. Okay, so we'll move on to kind of the last component here, which is the importance of the sounds that we choose. So for years, what I did, because I teach French, students always walk in the classroom and I'd have music playing, and that music would be in French from French radio stations. And so they would hear a variety, and I'd try to kind of switch it up. Then I started creating different playlists on YouTube where they would get to hear like French reggae, French raï, French rock music, and a variety like zouk, which is kind of like R&B. So I would let them listen to those playlists. And I thought that was great, but I never really wanted students to listen during class time, because I thought, well, if they listen during class, and that's distracting, and a lot of them have a hard time listening to words while they're working on something. So I just only did it at the start of class, during the break, and then at the end of class. And I did something that was a little different, and again, inspired by my son, but something that, as you can see just from the numbers, it's about the same numbers of people that said that it helped them. I had students that, didn't kind of were neutral about it, as you can see, but, either they didn't have an opinion, or, they actually were for it. So I started researching, and this actually was, again, stemmed by my son, who had some trouble concentrating. And we were doing homeschool one day, and he's like, asked me to put this Marshmallow song, and I was just like, oh my gosh. But we were having a rough day, and I was just thinking, like, at this point, I'm willing to try almost anything. So I put this, you might have heard the Marshmallow song. I'll let you guys hear it if you want. And I put it, and it's instrumental. There are no words, but he was just like doing math problems like you wouldn't believe. And I was just in shock. And so I thought, I need to research this more, because in my mind, I always thought that like classical music was the best. I mean, when I was pregnant, I would listen to classical music and have the Canon de Pachelbel being played when the kids were babies. And so I always thought that. And when I researched it, ironically, I discovered that lounge music, like soft techno, nature sounds as well, but things that actually are a happy music. So think of music that, and I'll have a playlist I can let you guys hear as well. But think of any type of music that is joyful, that has a beat, that makes you kind of want to travel. You're like, I mean, if you like traveling, to me that's like exciting. But for some of you that might not be, but something that kind of gives you some like a booster. And so I hope you guys can hear. I don't know if it'll play, but I'll try it. This is like an example of, I have a whole playlist that I recently created. So let me see if you guys can hear that. So that gives you guys maybe like a glimpse of it. And I'll show you guys the playlist that I have as well. And I'd be, of course, always more than happy to share the playlist. But so it's just instrumental music. I'm also, I'm putting the playlist in the comments. And so, yeah, maybe Bob Marley is really relaxed, and that's true. That's great, Dawn. You already do this. That's great. I think it's you're right. I think it really helps them focus. And Laura, I'm inspired to read that book. That seems like a really good book that maybe oh yeah, Danita, yep, Nature Sounds. And so let me see if I can put it, but this is just a playlist I created because I started researching a little bit more. And so I think the first one on my playlist is the Marshmallow song. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yeah, because it went back. But the first one I think on my list is the Marshmallow song. So it gives you guys a glimpse. The students don't see the video. If that's maybe a question you may have, the students they're not seeing the video. All they're doing is they're listening to it. So like whatever's on my screen, oops, I don't know why it's not working. Oh, that's the Marshmallow song's not coming on first, but maybe there's just too much. Anyway, this gives you like an example. So that's an example of one, but actually that's not my playlist, so I apologize for that. I actually have a playlist. Here we go. Here's a playlist. The Marshmallow song comes first. So for those who are wondering what the Marshmallow song is, here you go. You can see from the... Oh, so that's the Marshmallow song, and it has I have a gazillion other songs in that playlist. Some of them are actually, when I started researching it, I was surprised that so many songs that were saying that they were contributing to a good learning environment were actually electronic. So like I have some that are in French. It doesn't matter what language it's in, to be honest, because they're instrumental anyway. But the majority, it's like happy music that has a beat, whether you call it techno or Planet Lounge is another good one. But that just, so they can just be in the background. So I turn it down because, you know, I don't want it to be too loud. But so during the lecture, during activities they do, if they're in small groups, then I might put the music a little bit higher. But I'll turn it down when there's any kind of lecture or whatnot. And that just is like a happy music that makes you want to, you know, study. Maybe instrumental is good for tests, but I feel like sometimes, even if it is soothing, and definitely nature sounds are very soothing, that kind of music is more stimulating to learn and to be productive, especially if you're combining that with the color blue. So how I use it is just like I mentioned, you know, I have music playing in the background. I change the music depending on the activity. And again, the students are not watching the video because that's just one of the tabs and it's just turned down. So they don't see the video if there's any kind of video, but they're just listening to the music. So that's kind of in a nutshell the three things that I've been applying in my classroom and at home and that have been effective. And so I definitely would like for you to share your ideas. We kind of looked at some of them already, but I would love anything that you want to share, whether it's on that Padlet. So again, it's padlet.com/profdemeo/learning-env for environment. So I'd love for you to share your ideas there as well. Or you can also share them in the chat. So yeah, I think this, yeah, that's right. It's the suggestion of having students share their favorite music, I think is really good. So far, the only thing I would recommend is just in terms of having words, because sometimes words can be distracting for some students, just like colors, like light colors upon light color can be distracting. Then having words, if students are selecting their favorite songs that may have words, and especially if those words tend to be a little disrespectful or a little weird, I don't know how to explain it, then that could be a little bit challenging. But I think having a playlist for a class could be good. Like, hey, this is my playlist of instrumental music that's kind of a techno based. What are some songs that you like that help you study that don't have words? And then create a playlist for the class. I think that's a great, great, great activity. And so, oh yeah, and I like that inspiration of Bob Marley as well, Robert. I think that's great. Yeah, I like that song. Don't worry about a thing. Everything's going to be all right. That's true. I think that that's really useful. So let's see if you guys shared anything else. Yeah, that we talked about the learning names and so forth. So those are just some things that, again, you can contribute on this post as much as you want, because I'm just going to keep it open anyway, of things that could help. But if you kind of look back now at some of these, you can see how the color, the scent, the sound can help change some of this. So that anxiety and stress with the right scent can really alleviate that. The color may be something that's not really, if you're not aware of it, you probably don't think of it, but that can definitely help. And obviously the music can be a part of that. So, and then positive learning environments, you guys contributed a lot. But if you look at the negative ones, even that negative attitude or that even pessimistic or even depressing attitude can change some with the right music. And even if that's like, I love that kind of music. So, but even if it's not really your type of music, just, I would say when you're writing lesson plans, yay. And then finding activities for your classroom, yay. Then you could possibly listen to that kind of music and just see how it impacts you and how you feel after listening to it. And, you know, maybe for students that do feel like there's that instruction overload, or, you know, the other students that are chatting, maybe that music may help a lot, you know. So just, you know, some food for thought for you guys to possibly think about. And I'm reading on some of your comments as well. Tina's saying that she agrees, and we look for instrumental only versions. Most of them have like R&B, reggae, others. I think that's great. That's really useful. And Donna was saying also that about playing music and a light, fresh scent where they walk in. Oh yeah, wow. I like I like that. That's really good. Also, cleaning the desk with a fresh scented wipe before they come in. That's a great idea. We had the citrus ones as well. So that's like invigorating. So those are just some ideas that I've been researching. And so I just wanted to share with everyone. And again, feel free to share your ideas as well. And if you wouldn't mind as well, providing me your feedback. Your feedback is really important to me. And so I'll provide the link in the chat, but any feedback that you can give, ideas you want to share, how you enjoyed the workshop, if you did enjoy it. Oops, I gave you the wrong link, or just a part of the link. But I'd appreciate that as well, providing your feedback if you don't mind. So that's really all I have. You can see the tiny URL is, if you prefer to use that, I have both. I'll put both in the chat. There we go. And I just want to thank everybody so much for being here today, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Oh, that's right. You do need to do some professional development. But I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to attend this workshop, and for inspiring me, for giving me amazing ideas that I definitely want to start implementing right away. And so I really appreciate what you guys are saying as well. So thank you for being here. And you get out 3 minutes early. How about that? Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Rachele.
Rigo. So thank you. And thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that.